Hello my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. I hope you're all keeping very well out there and painting some beautiful paintings and getting lots of inspiration from nature. So this week for YouTube I am going to paint a lovely sailboat. It's something similar to what I've done for my previous Patreon tutorial. It turned out beautiful. I got lots of comments on it, so I thought I'd do something similar for you, for yourselves on YouTube as well. Just something similar, because I know a lot of people like to learn how to paint sailboats, and in this one particularly the sky is very important. There's a beautiful sky in this. I have a photograph here which I'm going to show you. Just a very quick kind of a photograph, just so you get some idea of what we're going to paint. Now, isn't that gorgeous? You can see beautiful sky with this little sailboat out at sea. Nice and simple, but I think it will help a lot of you with clouds, especially clouds, and painting just a simple sailboat. Very eye-catching, kind of a white sail on the sailboat. I think it will make a nice tutorial. So there's a lot to learn in this, even though it's quite a simple tutorial. Just lots of real nice, bright, fluffy clouds. I think it's going to make a very interesting tutorial, okay, if you're learning how to paint clouds and seascapes, even that kind of thing. So let's try it and have a bit of fun with this. I have a 16 by 12 canvas. I primed it once. I rubbed it down with some sandpaper just very quickly, and it's ready to go. So let's have some fun with painting clouds. I call this tutorial painting clouds in oils. How about that? Or painting a sailboat with clouds or something. But look, if you want to give me some suggestions for our next tutorial, I am open to all possibilities. So do leave a comment. If you would like something specific painted, clouds, sunset, trees, bridges, reflections, it could be anything. Pop a comment in there in the comment box, and I will pick one. I'll pick one, whichever one I think is going to be best for a tutorial. I don't want to be doing anything too complicated for yourselves, because some photographs I get sent, they could be beautiful photographs, people requesting them for tutorials. They can be really beautiful scenes, but there's just so much detail in some of them that it could just take me forever to do a tutorial. So that's why, I want something kind of very eye-catching, but I could maybe paint in an hour perhaps on a tutorial. So bear that in mind. So if you have a nice little photograph somewhere on your gallery, in your phone or something, that you would love to paint, and you're kind of stuck, if it's a nice simple scene but nice and colourful, that kind of a thing, or something just very eye-catching, do let me know. My email address is in the description, so do email me some photographs if you would like something painted. Okay, thank you so much. Let's crack on and have some fun with this painting here. I hope you enjoy it. Don't go anywhere. Okay, my friends, there is a reference photograph. Now, isn't that a lovely photograph? It's just simple, lots of blue, I know, but I can add a bit of colour to this, and it's just a nice simple, I think, painting to try. And especially the clouds. You see how lovely those clouds are. They're just absolutely gorgeous, aren't they? So let's start. I'll tell you what colours I have. Titanium white, Naples yellow, phaylo blue, cadmium yellow pale, magenta, lamp black, and a little burnt umber. Because I want to mess around with some colours. I want to have a bit of fun, get some colour on the canvas. Let's take a large brush, any large brush you have. I'm using soft synthetic brushes, okay? What I might do actually is, I might take some linseed oil and just pop a tiny amount of linseed oil on a piece of tissue. You see, this is regular linseed oil, alright? Just regular linseed. I'm going to cover the sky with this. I think it might make a big difference. What do you think? Now, you can just use turpentine on its own if you like. It's absolutely fine, whichever you choose. It's just to wet the canvas, that's all. That's plenty, that's all we need. So I'm going to go in now to phaylo blue and some white, okay? Tiny touch of thinners on my brush. I pick up some white and some phaylo blue. And I would say I'm probably safe enough just with those two colours. Just for now. And we'll start up at the top left hand corner. Let's have a look at this colour. Okay, that needs to be much darker, doesn't it? Let's take more phthalo blue. I might, just for the sake of argument, just add a touch of magenta in there, the tiniest little touch. It's just because phthalo blue on its own can be quite cold sometimes, so I think the touch of magenta might help just make it that little bit warmer. Now what I'm going to do with the clouds is I'm just going to kind of go around wherever I think the cloud is. Look, just the big ones, that's all, and then paint the rest. Now we have a little cloud coming around like that, don't we? And then we come across like that. So I can paint all of this in. So let's go, let's paint, let's have some fun. Again, a touch more of the magenta. And when this is coming down, it's getting lighter. So just add some white into that, alright? Tiny amount of white. And you can keep going, adding just white on its own, because it will mix with the colour already on the canvas anyway. So you can just go with just white on its own. I just kind of dart it around here and there. You see there's bits of blue just here and there in amongst the clouds. So I'm just going to go like that. I might take a touch of cadmium yellow with a touch of phthalo blue, okay? And what I want to do is just, you know the way sometimes in a seascape sky you have this sort of, it's almost like a greeny blue sometimes. Sometimes now, only sometimes, you get this sort of greeny blue in the sky as it goes down to the horizon line. That's what I'm going to just try and get. So just put that on, nice thin layer, and soften it across. You can use a blender brush as well, or whatever you like. Just make it nice and soft. Okay? And what I'm going to do is then just darken the top left hand corner a little bit. So, phthalo blue and a little magenta. And let's just take a look. I might go a bit darker. I might go a little bit darker than the painting, alright? Or sorry, than the photograph. I just want a nice, rich dark up in this corner to soften down. And just go from the corner down and soften it out. I find when you have a little bit of contrast on the sky like that, it just helps. There's no particular reason for it, other than really, as the sky goes up higher and higher in the horizon, it generally tends to get a little darker. So I would always make my sky a little darker up on top. It just gives a nice effect. I think that's absolutely fine. That will do us just fine. I'm going to just clean my brush. I'm dipping it into my turpentine and letting the tissue take the colour off of the brush. So I'm not swirling my brush. Avoid swirling your brush around in your thinners like this, because immediately you destroy what thinners you have and it will turn blue. So just allow the tissue to take that paint off. Next we have clouds. And I'm going to start with a nice grey. Now a lot of people are always worried about greys and clouds. I think a nice mix for grey is if you take some white. Now it's a soft grey. You see the shadows? There's a bit of a bluey grey there. Let's get some white, a little phthalo blue. I'll take a touch of magenta. So we have magenta, blue, and I might try a hint of black, tiny hint of black. Now that in itself is a pretty good grey. It's a warm grey for a cloud, say for instance, you see. That's a nice kind of a warm, it's a mauvey grey, but if you want to make it a bit more subtle, I would take a touch of burnt umber. That tiniest little touch of burnt umber will really, you see how that softens that pink now? And that gives it a much more neutral kind of a grey. So I'm just going to put this grey in, all around here, just as, let's say, a base colour. I think that would make a pretty nice base colour. Let's try that one more time. Let's take some burnt umber, a little black, a tiny touch of magenta, and a tiny touch of phthalo blue. And it gives you just this wonderful warm grey. You see what I mean? I'm just going to kind of pop it around here and there. All of this will be softened in anyway. Now as it comes down it gets a lot more blue. So I'm going to take a lot more blue into the mix with a touch of magenta. And now I'm making it, you see, a bit more blue as it comes down. You can also see across the bottom where it's quite dark. I'm going to make it a bit more blue. Let's pick up some blue. Let's add a bit more blue into that as it comes down. Again, I take a touch more blue because I'm looking at the photograph, and where I see slightly bluer greys, I'm just going to take a bit of blue on my brush, mix a bit of blue and add a little bit of blue in. That's all you need to do. And let's put a little bit over here, up on that side. And I'm just being very loose with this. I'm not focusing too much on the photograph. I'm adding my own little touches, if you understand what I mean. Now I need to go a bit darker over here. I'm going to take phthalo blue, magenta, and a touch of burnt umber. But there is quite a bit of pink in this. So you have a kind of a warm mauve. A mauve kind of a blue, alright? I just want to put that darker shade, you see? Just here and there. Now you can't just mix one shade and go like this, one shade. Because our whites later on, well in a moment, our whites are going to be covering a lot of this anyway. So you don't have to, don't worry. Don't try and make it exactly the same, alright? Now, I think that will do. We have some nice darks. You can already see some highlights. Now this was a pure accident. I didn't realise I was going to be having almost highlights of clouds here. I was just dancing around with the brush. I wasn't even thinking about where the brush was going. So that's what they would call a happy accident in painting. Isn't that lovely? I love when that happens. It's only when you stand back sometimes you realise what's in front of you. So I'm going to stop at that, clean the brush again. Let's just get this colour out. We have lovely white colour to put on. So let's just clean that brush really well. Doesn't have to be spotless, just relatively clean, okay? White, let's just go into some white. Come on, let's just take some pure white. And I'm just going to go very random again with this. I am sort of just flicking the tip of my brush around, look. And I'm dabbing and all sorts of things. I'm just really trying to be very loose with the brush. Because those types of clouds, they just sort of flick here and there. Look, they kind of come out and they flick around, and they're very spontaneous kind of clouds. Now I have a nice bright one in the middle here. Let's just get a nice bright one in there, look. Like that. And then you kind of flick off the edges here and there, you see? And that just gives you that sort of random cloud. So don't be tempted when you're painting clouds to go into your canvas close and do this with a small brush. Don't be tempted to do that. A bigger brush sometimes is the best way to paint a cloud like this. Just very, very loose, very random. Look, let's go. Come on. Let's have a bit of fun with this. And we've one or two that come down like that. And we've another one here. So you can see how I'm doing this now. I'm very, very, very loose with my brush. And clean the brush every couple of seconds just to keep it bright and clean. And let's see, let's put one or two down here. Look, just dab it around, tips of the clouds. Let's go up this side, and I might put one or two just kind of dotting around up there in the sky, and maybe just one there, one coming out here. I'm just going kind of on my own, I suppose. I'm just putting my own little touch in. You don't have to, you know, I see some artists on YouTube and they can spend hours and hours painting clouds, but you don't really have to. You can if you like, but I prefer to be just very loose like this. This is my preferred method of painting. Just be very loose and spontaneous. Okay, now you may say that looks very messy, and yes, it probably is a bit messy, but let's get a soft blender brush. My little friend here, my soft foundation powder brush, I think it's called. My wife's brush. Let's keep it our little secret, okay? I won't tell my wife if you don't. A soft blender brush, nice simple blender brush, a cheap brush. Let's soften all of this together. So I start up here, look. Now there's no real technique for this other than kind of just flicking the edge of the brush around in circles, just to soften the surface of your paint very gently. And it's almost like I'm holding a feather. That's how much pressure I'm putting on it. Look, I'm just barely touching. Going in little circles and flicking it left and flicking it right. It's all just to soften everything out very gently. You see? You can dab and you can do all sorts of things, whichever you like, it's up to you. Now how's that? Let's do a little bit here. Just soften that in a little bit more. We don't have to go too soft, do we? Then I'm going to go finally with a palette knife. Now I know that's not as blue as the photograph, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be. It really doesn't. I'm going to get a palette knife for the next stage of my clouds. Grab some white, and I'm going to grab a little Naples yellow. That will really give the clouds a kick, alright? That will give your white a real kick. Little Naples yellow with the white. Now, watch and see what happens. Let's try it. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to reinforce that. I'll just bring it out a little bit more, look. Just a tiny bit of that yellowy white. And I'm going to go maybe just a little over here as well. Just around the edges of some of them. And I'm going to go here. So I can see there's a nice kind of a cloud coming down in here. And maybe just there. So look, just go around randomly with your palette knife then. And I'm using the flat of the palette knife to soften them in. Does that make sense? And this is a slow process. It's something that you want to take your time with. And you know, you can sit back and relax and have some coffee or something in between. But it's something that you just kind of slowly build up. You don't have to go mad straight away. Something that you can just enjoy seeing your painting come to life. Now I want to put a nice little bit up there. Look, let's just get those clouds in, up there. We pick up another little bit of that. We go again. Okay, let's see, where else could we put some? Let's try here. And we could go up here as well. Just keep cleaning your palette knife each time because you're picking up the blue, you see. So you just want to be a little careful with that. I'm going to soften this one back in. Okay, just bring it down. I want to give that a nice big cloud just there. And you don't have to do this if you're not comfortable with this type of style with the palette knife. You don't have to do it. You can just use a brush and leave it. It's fine. But I just want to really give a nice impact with this sky. Now I think we're pretty good. I'll just soften these down a little bit here. And for me the final step is probably just adding a touch of shadow to that one over there. Touch of shadow to the back of that. And then let's just soften, again, very gently, some of that palette knife work. You can leave the palette knife paint as it is, if you like, but I'm just going to soften it ever so gently, just to take some of the harshness out of the palette knife effect, okay? Just a touch, look, just a tiny touch. And that's pretty good. I am happy with that. Let's take off our masking tape. Now what I want to do next is soften all of that down into the ocean. So I'm taking some white. I'm just going to put some white across the bottom where that meets the ocean, right? Just like that. Now you could even add a touch of pink or something into it if you want. It's completely up to yourself. You can add a little touch of pink and soften that right into the sky, look, where they meet. Join those together and soften them right together. So you have a soft, gentle line where there's no horizon line, so to speak. And then we just continue down with the sea, phthalo blue with white. And just bring that down all the way. Just keep going. Let's fill this in. Now you can see the difference between the unoiled surface and the oiled. So when I oiled up there, you saw how smooth that went on. And you can see here, it's not really going across very smoothly, is it? So I'm going to add plenty of thinners into this. Just for a moment. Just to wet the canvas. And then we'll go and just, again, put this mix, phthalo blue and white. Maybe a little touch of magenta. Bring this in. Paint that on. I do generally like to use thin layers when I'm painting initially. I don't like putting lots of thick paint on a canvas, alright? Let's just take some white and you see up there now, pop some white across over those and soften them together. Let's just lose that horizon line, make it lovely and soft. It disappears into the sky. Is that nice? I'll go a bit higher on this side. And there we go. And that's okay now, isn't it? So, as it comes down, I am going to start darkening some of this. I'll take some phthalo blue with magenta and a touch of burnt umber. That'll give us a nice warm kind of a mauvey shade, alright? Just want to pop that in. Might have to go a bit darker than that. Let's go a nice bit darker. Tiny amounts. And you're probably thinking the ripples are going to be quite difficult, but I'll show you in a moment they're actually not that difficult at all. Okay. So I have a basic kind of a basic sky and ocean done. The next thing I want to do is go to a smaller brush and start putting in those ripples and get some real fine, strong kind of ripples going across the canvas, okay? So let me find a brush.